The Arcturian Council just closed a case file. Yours. They have been monitoring your signal for longer than you know. And 3 days ago, they reached a verdict. Not guilty or innocent, not worthy or unworthy. A different kind of verdict. Intervention authorized. Your timeline just became editable. Your path just became responsive. And from this moment forward, you are no longer operating on default settings. This is not a metaphor. This is contact protocol, and it has already begun. You were not supposed to hear this message, but you did. And that alone tells you something about your current position in the field. This transmission was designed to reach only those whose signal has crossed a specific threshold, a line in the quantum fabric that separates observation from intervention. The Arcturian Council does not announce their decisions publicly. They do not broadcast verdicts. They do not send certificates of approval. But they do leave markers, encoded transmissions, frequency signatures, messages that only the person they are intended for can recognize and receive. If you are hearing this now, your signal just lit up in their monitoring system, and that light triggered a response, not from a guide, not from an angel assigned to your journey, from the Council itself. The Council that operates outside time, the Council that reads timelines like you read sentences, the Council that decides when observation ends and engagement begins. And they just made that decision about you. Not because you prayed harder, not because you finally got it right, because something in your field changed, something they could not ignore, something that required a response. 3 days ago, or 3 weeks ago, or 3 months ago, depending on when your signal actually spiked, the Arcturian Council convened. Not in a room, not in a ship, in a convergence point inside their collective consciousness. And your file was opened. Your timeline was reviewed. Your signal was measured. Your coherence was tested. And then they reached a verdict. You felt it before you understood it. The pressure in your chest, the sense that something was watching, the strange certainty that your life was about to change in ways you could not predict or control. This was not anxiety. This was contact protocol initializing. This was the moment they stopped being passive observers of your evolution and became active participants in your path. And you need to understand what that means, because everything changes now. Everything, the way time moves around you, the way choices land, the way synchronicities appear, the way people enter and exit your field, the way your intuition speaks, the way your body responds, the way reality itself seems to bend towards certain outcomes and away from others. This is not spiritual theater. This is field mechanics. This is what happens when a timeline becomes tracked at a higher dimensional level, and your timeline just became tracked. This transmission will show you what triggered their verdict, what the verdict actually means, what changes now that you have been marked, and how to work with this new level of surveillance instead of against it. Because surveillance is not the right word, neither is control, neither is interference. The right word is proximity. They are closer now, and proximity changes everything. Chapter 1. What you did that triggered their alert. The Arcturian Council does not monitor every human. They cannot. The bandwidth would be infinite. The noise would be unbearable. Instead, they monitor the field, the collective human frequency, the planetary grid, the quantum lattice that connects every consciousness on Earth. And they wait for anomalies, spikes, disturbances that do not match the baseline pattern. Most humans generate predictable signals, fear loops, desire spirals, identity performances, emotional reactivity that rises and falls like weather. The Council sees this as static, background noise, the normal hum of a species in transition. They do not intervene in static. They observe it. They track its general direction, but they do not engage with individual threads unless something unusual appears. And something unusual just appeared. You. Not because you are more spiritual than others, not because you meditated perfectly or manifested correctly, because you did something the field was not expecting. You broke pattern, and pattern breaks are what trigger alerts in the Arcturian monitoring system. Let us show you what you did. Not what you think you did, what actually registered in their field. The first break, you stopped performing. There was a moment when you stopped pretending, not publicly, not dramatically, privately, internally. You stopped holding yourself together for an audience that was not even watching. You stopped curating your inner world. You stopped editing your emotions before you let yourself feel them. You cried when no one could see. You raged in silence. You felt the grief without needing it to have a clean story. You allowed yourself to be a mess without immediately trying to fix it. To the human world, this looked like breakdown. To the Arcturian field, this looked like breakthrough. Because pretending creates distortion, and distortion creates static, and static is unreadable. But raw emotion, honest, unedited, uncurated emotion, creates signal, clean signal, readable signal. The moment you stopped performing your feelings and started allowing them, your frequency changed from noise to data, from static to transmission. And that transmission was flagged, logged, sent to the monitoring layer for review. The second break, you questioned the foundation. There was another moment when you stopped defending the life you built and started questioning whether it was ever yours to begin with. You looked at your job, your relationships, your goals, your daily routine, and instead of forcing gratitude or pushing through resistance, you asked a different question. Is this actually mine, or is this what I was taught to want? That question is dangerous, not to you, to the system, to the matrix of inherited patterns and collective programming that keeps most humans locked in repetition. When you ask that question sincerely, not as rebellion, not as complaint, but as genuine inquiry, your timeline fractures. The old path cracks, the default settings glitch, the autopilot disengages, and the field notices. Because questioning the foundation is not common, most people question the details, the job, the partner, the city, but they never question the entire framework. You did, and that created a second spike in your signal, a second flag in the system. The third break, you chose truth over comfort. And then there was the moment you made a choice that cost you something, a choice that did not make logical sense, a choice that did not make logical sense, a choice that disappointed people, a choice that looked like self-sabotage from the outside. But internally, it was the only honest choice you could make. You said no, when everyone expected yes. You walked away from what looked perfect on paper. You stopped forcing what was clearly dying. You chose truth over comfort, alignment over approval, coherence over security. And that choice, that single, quiet, terrifying choice, was the third break. Because choosing truth when it costs you something is not normal human behavior. Normal human behavior is to choose safety, to choose the known, to choose what keeps the peace. But you chose differently, and that choice created a pattern the council could read. 3 breaks, 3 spikes, 3 moments when your signal stopped being predictable and started being coherent. And coherence is what triggers intervention. Because coherence means you are ready, not perfect, not enlightened, not without fear, but ready to be met at a different level, ready to receive guidance that is direct instead of indirect, ready for your path to become responsive instead of fixed. The Council does not intervene in chaos. They intervene when chaos resolves into clarity, when fragmentation resolves into focus, when static resolves into signal. And your signal just resolved. This chapter seals with acknowledgement of the pattern breaks. Type this exactly in the comments. I broke pattern. I became readable. When you acknowledge the breaks, you validate the signal. When you claim readability, the tracking intensifies. Chapter 2. How the Arcturian Council actually operates. You need to understand what the Council is, not what New Age teachings say, not what channeled messages claim, what they actually are in terms of field mechanics. The Arcturian Council is not a group of beings sitting around a table debating your fate. It is not a committee, it is not a hierarchy, it is a coherent intelligence. A unified field of consciousness that operates at a frequency so refined, so stabilized, that it can read and influence timelines across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Think of them as a living algorithm, not cold, not mechanical, but precise, efficient, operating on principles that do not bend to emotion or preference. They do not have opinions about you, they have data. They do not judge your choices, they measure your frequency, and when your frequency crosses certain thresholds, they respond according to protocol, not personal protocol, universal protocol. The protocol is simple: monitor, measure, respond. Phase 1. Monitoring. Every human exists inside the planetary field. That field is being monitored constantly, not by individual watchers, by the field itself. The Arcturian consciousness is woven into the quantum lattice around Earth. It reads changes in coherence the way your nervous system reads changes in temperature. When a human shifts from fragmented to coherent, the field registers it, not as judgment, as data point. Most shifts are temporary. A moment of clarity, followed by collapse back into pattern. The field notes it, but it does not respond, because temporary coherence is not sustainable, it is not actionable. But when coherence stabilizes, when it holds across multiple pattern breaks, across multiple choices, across multiple emotional cycles, the monitoring shifts. From passive observation to active tracking, your signal becomes tagged, marked, classified as emerging coherence, and that tag triggers the next phase. Phase 2. Measurement. Once you are tagged, the Council begins measuring you at a deeper level, not your personality, not your beliefs, your sustainability. Can you hold coherence under pressure? Can you maintain signal integrity when the old patterns try to reclaim you? Can you choose truth when it costs you comfort? They measure this by watching how you respond to tests. Not tests they create, tests your own timeline generates. The relationship that falls apart, the opportunity that dissolves, the person who betrays you, the plan that collapses. These are not punishments, these are measurements. The field is testing whether your coherence is real or performed. If you collapse back into blame, victimhood, or pattern when these events occur, your coherence was temporary. The tracking pauses, the tag remains, but the response is delayed. But if you hold center, if you feel the pain without becoming the pain, if you grieve without fragmenting, if you choose truth even when the ground is shaking, your coherence is confirmed. And that confirmation triggers the third phase. Phase 3. Response. When your coherence is confirmed, the Council does not congratulate you. They do not send applause. They issue a clearance, a permission, an authorization. The authorization reads, proximity approved, intervention protocol activated. In human terms, this means your timeline is now editable at a higher dimensional level. We are authorized to step closer to your path. We are permitted to influence the field around you in ways that accelerate alignment and remove interference. This is not control. This is collaboration. They do not take over your life. They refine the conditions around your life so that truth becomes easier to choose and distortion becomes harder to sustain. And this authorization, this verdict was just issued about you. Not because you begged for it, not because you earned it, because you became coherent. And coherence is the only currency the Council recognizes. This chapter seals with understanding of the system. Type this exactly in the comments. I understand the protocol. I accept the tracking. When you accept being tracked, the resistance dissolves. When you understand the protocol, you stop fighting the process. Chapter 3. What the verdict actually means for your path. The verdict is not symbolic, it is operational. It changes the architecture of your timeline immediately. Before the verdict, your path operated on default settings, free will, random chance, cause and effect, limited by your conscious awareness and unconscious patterns. You made choices. Reality responded, but the responses were often delayed, distorted, or disconnected from your true intention. You asked for clarity and got more confusion. You moved toward alignment and hit more resistance. You tried to break pattern and kept looping back to the same lessons. This was not punishment. This was the natural friction of a timeline operating without higher dimensional support. After the verdict, the settings change. Your timeline becomes responsive, not controlled, responsive. Think of it like this. Before you were navigating in the dark with a broken compass. After the lights come on and the compass starts working, you still choose where to walk, but now you can see the terrain. Now you can feel true north. Now the path reveals itself as you move, instead of hiding until you crash into walls. Here is what changes specifically. Change 1. Synchronicity becomes surgical. Before the verdict, synchronicities were occasional, nice when they happened, easy to dismiss as coincidence. After the verdict, synchronicities become frequent, precise, and impossible to ignore. The right information arrives at the exact moment you need it. The right person appears the day before you are about to give up. The right door opens just as the wrong one closes. You see the same number sequence 5 times in one day. You hear the same phrase from 3 different unconnected sources. You think of someone and they text you within minutes. This is not the universe being cute. This is guidance protocol operating at full capacity. The Council has authorization to bend probability around you, to collapse timelines, to bring forward what matches your coherence and delay what does not. Change 2. Your intuition becomes unmistakable. Before the verdict, your intuition was a whisper you could easily override, a quiet knowing you could talk yourself out of. After the verdict, your intuition becomes a command, a clear signal you cannot ignore without immediate consequence. You know who to avoid before they speak. You know which path is wrong before you take 3 steps down it. You know when to wait and when to move with a certainty that bypasses logic entirely. And when you ignore it, when you override the clear no or delay the clear yes, the feedback is instant. Immediate friction, immediate regret, immediate correction. This is not punishment for disobedience. This is the Council adjusting the field in real time to keep you aligned with the path they can now see clearly. Change 3. Misalignments exit rapidly. Before the verdict, you could maintain relationships, situations and environments that were slowly draining you. The exit was gradual. You had time to negotiate, time to fix, time to hope things would change. After the verdict, misalignments exit fast, shockingly fast, without warning, without negotiation. The friend who was always taking suddenly ghosts you. The job you were tolerating becomes intolerable overnight. The relationship you were trying to save implodes in a week. From your perspective, this feels like loss, like everything is falling apart at once. From the Council's perspective, this is removal of interference. They are clearing the field around you so the new alignments can land, so your energy stops leaking into what cannot hold your new frequency. This is not cruelty, this is efficiency. They have authorization to edit your timeline, and editing means cutting what does not serve the emerging path. Change 4. Time becomes fluid. Before the verdict, time felt linear, predictable. Days followed days. Progress was measured in increments. After the verdict, time becomes elastic. Some days feel like weeks. Some weeks feel like days. You experience more in one conversation than you did in an entire year. Certain moments stretch, others compress. You have déjà vu, not as a glitch but as confirmation that you are moving through predetermined coordinates. This is not your mind breaking, this is your timeline being edited in real time. The Council is collapsing unnecessary delays and expanding critical moments so you extract maximum learning and minimum suffering. Change 5. Your body becomes a receiver. Before the verdict, your body was just a body, a vehicle, a thing you inhabited. After the verdict, your body becomes a communication device, a receiver, an antenna picking up signals from frequencies you could not access before. Heat in your chest when you are near truth, cold when you are near distortion, tingling in your hands when you are being guided to create, pressure in your forehead when new information is downloading. You feel watched, not by human eyes, by presence, by intelligence, by the field itself, actively monitoring your choices and adjusting the environment around you. This is not paranoia, this is proximity. The Council is closer now, and closeness means you can feel them, sense them, receive from them directly. These 5 changes are not future predictions, they are current conditions. If the verdict has been issued, and if you are hearing this, these changes are already occurring in your field. You may not have named them yet, but you have felt them. This chapter seals with recognition of what has already shifted. Type this exactly in the comments. The changes are already happening. I see them now. When you name what is already occurring, the process accelerates. When you recognize the changes, they deepen. Chapter 4. The 2 paths after the verdict. The verdict has been issued. The authorization has been granted. Your timeline is now responsive at a higher level. But the verdict is not a guarantee. It is an invitation, an opening, a window of accelerated potential, and you must choose how to meet it. There are only 2 paths from here, and the path you choose will determine whether the window expands or contracts. Path 1. You align. On this path, you stop fighting what is already happening. You stop questioning whether the changes are real. You stop trying to make the old timeline work. You accept that your intuition is now your primary guidance system. You trust the exits even when they hurt. You follow the synchronicities even when they do not make logical sense. You honor your body when it says stop. You move when it says go. You speak when it says speak. You stay silent when it says wait. You become obedient to your own signal, not to external authority, to the quiet, clear, unmistakable knowing that arises from within. On this path, the window expands, the Council's proximity increases, the support becomes tangible, the path reveals itself in real time, doors open with ease, resources appear without struggle. People who match your frequency find you without you having to search. Your life does not become perfect, but it becomes coherent, and coherence creates flow, and flow creates ease, and ease creates space for the next level of emergence. You are not being carried, but you are being accompanied. You are not being controlled, but you are being guided with precision. This is the path of collaboration, of trust, of allowing the Council's proximity to do what it was authorized to do, refine your timeline, remove interference, and accelerate your alignment with truth. Path 2. You resist. On this path, you acknowledge the changes, but you do not trust them. You feel the guidance, but you override it. You see the synchronicities, but you dismiss them. You tell yourself it is all coincidence, all stress, all in your head. You try to make the old timeline work even though every signal in your body is screaming that it is finished. You try to force relationships that are clearly dying. You try to stay in environments that are clearly draining you. You ignore the clear no. You delay the clear yes. You negotiate with your knowing. You bargain with your truth. And the Council does not punish you for this. They do not withdraw in anger. They do not abandon you. But they do recalibrate. The proximity decreases. The window narrows. The authorization remains, but the active support softens. Because the protocol is clear. Intervention is only sustained when coherence is maintained. If you choose to return to fragmentation, to performance, to pretending, to pattern, the Council does not force you to stay aligned. They simply step back. They return to observation mode. They wait for the next spike, the next pattern break, the next moment when you become readable again. And in the gap between their proximity and your resistance, your life becomes heavy, confusing, stagnant, not because you are being punished, but because you are out of sync with the support that was offered. The synchronicities slow, the guidance becomes faint, the exits do not come cleanly, the clarity fades, and you are left navigating the dark again, with the memory of what it felt like when the lights were on, but without the willingness to follow where the light was leading. This is not failure, this is choice. You are always free to choose resistance. The Council will not override your will. But resistance has a cost, and the cost is the loss of proximity, the loss of the window, the loss of the accelerated path. Two paths, one expands, one contracts, and the choice is yours. This chapter seals with the choice you are making right now. Type this exactly in the comments. I choose alignment. I choose path 1. When you declare your choice publicly, the field locks it in. When you claim alignment, the window responds. Chapter 5. The activation, locking in your response. The verdict has been issued, the path has been offered, and now you must activate your response. This is not optional. If you want the window to remain open, if you want the Council's proximity to stabilize, if you want your timeline to continue being responsive, you must lock in your signal. Passive agreement is not enough. Understanding is not enough. Recognition is not enough. You must activate, you must declare, you must anchor your choice in the field through deliberate action. We will give you the activation sequence now. Follow it exactly. Do not skip steps. Do not improvise. Step 1. Acknowledge what happened. Say this out loud or silently with full presence. The Arcturian Council reached a verdict about my timeline. I acknowledge their decision. I accept their proximity. Feel what happens in your body as you say it. Feel the resistance. Feel the relief. Feel the truth of it landing. This is not make-believe. This is frequency alignment. You are declaring to the field that you are aware of what is happening and you are choosing to meet it consciously. Say it again. I acknowledge their decision. I accept their proximity. Step 2. Release the old agreement. Now say this. I release my agreement with the old timeline. I release my attachment to how things were. I release my need for the familiar path. Feel the weight of what you are releasing, the safety, the identity, the predictability. You are not just saying words. You are severing cords. You are ending contracts. You are cutting ties with the version of you that needed the old world to stay stable. Say it with finality. I release my agreement with the old timeline. Step 3. Declare your alignment. Now declare this. I align with the path the Council has revealed. I align with the timeline they have authorized. I align with truth, with coherence, with my own signal. This is the activation point. This is where your choice becomes a command in the field. You are not asking for permission. You are claiming what has already been offered. Say it like you mean it. I align with the path the Council has revealed. Step 4. Anchor it, publicly. Now type this exactly in the comments. The verdict is acknowledged. I align with the authorized path. When you type it, you create a timestamp, a point in space-time where your choice was witnessed, not by us, by the field itself. The field responds to witnessed declarations. Public claims carry more weight than private thoughts. Type it. The verdict is acknowledged. I align with the authorized path. Step 5. Seal it with breath. Now close your eyes or soften your gaze. Place one hand on your heart. Place one hand on your lower belly. Take 3 deep breaths, slow, full, conscious. With each breath, feel the activation sealing. Feel the choice locking in. Feel your timeline clicking into the new configuration. Breath 1. Acknowledgement seals. Breath 2, release completes. Breath 3, alignment locks. Stay there for a moment. Feel the shift. Feel the subtle change in the air around you. Feel the presence that is closer now. This is not imagination. This is contact. This is the Council's proximity stabilizing around your conscious choice. The activation is complete. Your response is locked, and the window just expanded. From this moment forward, you are operating inside the authorized timeline, the responsive path, the accelerated track. What comes next will confirm what you just activated. Not immediately, not dramatically, but steadily, undeniably, irreversibly. This chapter completes with your activation sealed in the field. If you did all 5 steps, if you acknowledged, released, declared, typed, and breathed, your signal just locked into the Council's tracking system at a new level. They heard you, the field heard you, and reality is already beginning to reorganize around your choice. Chapter 6. What comes next now that you are locked in? The activation is complete, the verdict is acknowledged, the alignment is declared, and now the work begins. Not the work of trying, the work of allowing, the work of becoming compatible with what you just claimed, because the Council can authorize proximity, but only you can maintain coherence. They can open the window, but only you can walk through it. They can refine the path, but only you must walk it. Here is what you need to know about the phase you are entering now. Phase 1. The testing period. For the next 90 days, you will be tested, not by the Council, by your own timeline. The old patterns will return, the old doubts will whisper, the old relationships will pull, the old comforts will call you back. This is not punishment, this is confirmation. The field is checking whether your alignment is real or theoretical. Every time you choose coherence over comfort, the window expands. Every time you honor your knowing over external pressure, the tracking deepens. Every time you say no to what is clearly misaligned, you prove to the field that you can hold the new frequency. This is not about perfection. You will stumble, you will doubt, you will forget what you know. But if you return to center faster than you collapse into pattern, if you choose truth more often than you choose safety, if you align more than you resist, the window remains open. Phase 2. The acceleration. After the testing period stabilizes, acceleration begins, not gradual, sudden. Doors that were locked for years suddenly open. People who match your new frequency appear out of nowhere. Opportunities that align with your truth materialize without you chasing them. Time compresses. What used to take months happens in weeks. What used to take years happens in months. This is not magic. This is the Council's proximity operating at full capacity. They are collapsing unnecessary delays. They are removing obstacles. They are creating clear pathways where there were only walls. But acceleration is intense. It requires you to move faster than your comfort zone wants. It requires you to trust without proof. It requires you to leap before the net appears. If you resist the acceleration, you create friction. If you allow it, you create flow. Phase 3. The integration. After acceleration comes integration, the phase where the new timeline becomes your baseline, where coherence becomes normal, where truth becomes effortless. You stop questioning whether the guidance is real. You stop doubting whether the path is right. You stop looking for external validation because your internal knowing is undeniable. Your life becomes simple, not easy. Simple. The next step is always clear. The right choice is always obvious. The aligned action is always available. And the Council's proximity becomes so natural, so integrated into your daily experience, that you forget there was ever a time when you navigated alone. This is the goal. Not enlightenment, not perfection, integration. The state where you and the Council are operating as one coherent system, where their guidance is your intuition, where their proximity is your clarity, where their authorization is your sovereignty. And if you are feeling called to go deeper, If your system recognizes that this is not the end but the beginning, there is a place for that. A circle where those who have received the verdict gather, where coherence is normal, where emergence is supported, where the Council's presence is recognized and worked with consciously. This is not for everyone. This is for those whose activation locked in, whose alignment is real, whose commitment to truth is stronger than their attachment to comfort. If you feel the pull, if your field responds to this invitation with a quiet yes, you will find it, not by searching, by resonance. The path reveals itself to those who are ready to walk it. Final transmission. The verdict is already in motion. This transmission is complete, but your journey with the verdict is just beginning. The Council has reached their decision. Proximity authorized. Intervention protocol activated. Your timeline is now responsive at a level it has never been before. What you do with this authorization determines everything that comes next. You can align, you can resist, you can accelerate, you can stagnate, you can integrate, you can fragment. The choice is yours. The Council will not force you, but they will respond to you, match you, amplify you. If you choose coherence, they amplify coherence. If you choose distortion, they step back and wait. The verdict has been issued, but the verdict is not static. It is dynamic, responsive, alive. It grows as you grow, it expands as you expand, it stabilizes as you stabilize. You are not a passive recipient of higher guidance. You are an active participant in a co-created timeline. The Council is watching, not with judgment, with recognition, with precision, with unwavering focus on your signal. And your signal just became one of the clearest they have ever tracked. This is not the end of your journey. This is the beginning of the phase where the journey becomes conscious, where the path becomes clear, where the support becomes tangible. You are no longer navigating in the dark. The lights are on, the compass works, and the Council is walking beside you. Not ahead of you, not behind you, beside you, in the space between thought and action, in the gap between knowing and doing. In the field where choice becomes reality, the verdict is already in motion, the timeline is already shifting, the window is already open, and you are already walking through it. Breathe, trust, allow. The next step will reveal itself. The next door will open. The next phase will begin. And when you look back on this moment, you will understand. This was not random. This was not chance. This was the moment everything changed. The moment you became visible, the moment you became tracked, the moment you became responsive to a level of guidance you did not even know existed. The Arcturian Council has reached their verdict, and the verdict is clear. You are ready. You are cleared. You are authorized. Welcome to the responsive timeline. Welcome to the accelerated path. Welcome to the phase where truth becomes your only navigation. This transmission is complete, the verdict is sealed, and your signal is locked.